You might be home, but you're not alone. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer. This is I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
And this week we watched Better Watch Out from...
An actual supremely dope movie.
Yes, an actual very good movie. Shudder. It's always the weeks that we have like a Shudder movie that it is a good movie.
It's like they know what they're doing.
Oh, 100%. They're Christmas movies right now are all pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, what? Christmas Evil and Black Christmas.
Christmas Evil is...
Christmas Presents.
Christmas Evil is one of those ones that is so terrible that it's good.
I've never seen it.
I had like... I believe Troma had released it on DVD at one point. I used to own it, and it's just like... It's not good, but it is like... It's so not good that it kind of is good. There's probably a better way to phrase that, but I'm going to say at the beginning of this episode that if you have not seen Better Watch Out, go watch it before listening to this, because we're going to spoil it, and there is some insane twists and shit in this movie that going into it with as little knowledge about it as possible is the best way to watch this movie.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, just don't Google it, don't look anything up, just go in as blind as you can.
Yeah. Like,
it's so worth it.
Even like, cuz I watched like I was trying to kind of plot out what we were going to do for December, and I was like looking for Christmas movies, and I came across this and I watched the trailer, and even with watching the trailer, I was like this movie fucking melted my brain. Like oh god, it's so good. So yeah, if you've not seen this, put off listening to this until you have watched it, because this movie isn't like what we normally cover. This movie is legitimately very good. And
surprising.
Yeah, like the twist in this movie is pretty great. So I definitely highly suggest watching this movie. And as of right now, like I know you could buy it on like Blu-ray and DVD and shit, but streaming wise, I believe it is only on Shudder.
It's a Shudder exclusive.
So, spend that $3.99 a month or whatever, get Shudder. Just if there's like a code, just put I Hope You Suffer. I'm sure it'll work.
Bound to.
If enough people do it, they'll take notice.
We're gonna force our own Shudder sponsorship.
With no money coming in. Just bombarding them with fake codes every week.
Who the hell are these people? Why are you putting this in here?
They start charging people like $8 a month for it after that. Everybody puts in the wrong code. So this movie was directed by Chris Peckover, who I only looked like he only had like maybe one other movie under his credits. And pretty much like a lot of the people in this movie have like a bunch of TV work, but there wasn't a whole lot, because like the cast isn't very big. It's only about 8 people.
The most famous person is I forget his name, but he's the dude that played the Red Power Ranger in the Power Rangers reboot from a year or two ago.
I am going to disagree and say the most famous person is David Puddy from Seinfeld.
Oh shit, I forgot he's the dad. You're right.
And the Tick.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, like he's only in it for a couple
like
minutes,
maybe 2 minutes, yeah.
Patrick Warburton plays the dad, and then Virginia Madsen plays the mom. She is from Candyman. She was in Candyman, so that was like the only kind of like legit horror connection I saw. But for the most part, you spend the majority of the movie with 3 characters. Ashley, played by Olivia DeJonge. I'm not really sure how to pronounce her last name.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So Luke, played by Levi Miller, and Garrett, played by Ed Oxenbould. I guess.
I misread that as Oxenblood, and that is a way cooler name than Oxenbould.
I also can't read my own handwriting, so I don't even know if that's right, but whatever. All you need to know is that David Puddy is in this because we gotta have a Seinfeld character every week.
Yeah, we've been slacking on the Seinfeld references.
This movie was originally titled Safe Neighborhood, which is a much worse title.
That's so bad.
Why
would they even think of that?
Well, I'm wondering if that was like an original title, and then they were just like, well, why don't we just make it like a Christmas movie? Because for the most part, this really, other than just being set at Christmas time, isn't totally like a Christmas movie. It just happens to take place around Christmas. It's not like, Christmas Evil or Silent Night, Deadly Night, and all that kind of shit.
There's no murderous Santa Claus. Spoilers. Sad.
Yeah. That light up Santa Claus statue didn't come to life. So this movie is gonna be weird to talk about because Kit had already seen it. I had not, and I got very wrapped up into it, and at numerous points just stopped taking notes. And this unfortunately was one of the weeks I only got to watch it once. I usually try and do 2 viewings, one where I take notes and one where I just legit watch, but I only got to one this time, so we will do what we can. My notes, I just start where the last week's episode ended, and so it has part of the Mother Krampus episode, and the very top note is MK Temple of Doom's Amy's dad. I was happy to see that. So this movie opens like pretty much every fucking Christmas movie with a wide shot of a neighborhood, kids playing in the snow. Some fucking kid gets his snowman knocked down and just screams very annoyingly and runs off. And said at the very beginning, this first opening shot with this kid screaming, I was just God damn it, this movie's gonna be terrible.
It picks up.
Yes. So for I guess basically, really for the first 10 minutes, you're just kind of introduced to the characters and getting kind of not necessarily backstory, but just kind of general what their characters are like.
Yeah. Familiarity.
You get Ashley, who is the babysitter, driving her car, talking to her mom about her boyfriend, and she's moving to Pittsburgh or something like that, and almost runs over a cat in the snow. And then you cut to Luke and Garrett, who Luke is the kid that is getting babysat, and Garrett is his best friend. And I'm guessing the ages in this are supposed to be roughly 18 and 14. No, I guess Luke says he's about to turn 13.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing maybe Ashley's probably 16, 17.
Yeah, still high school. I don't know if it's ever specified.
Yeah. But Luke and Garrett are mega creep preteens talking about...
so just regular preteen boys.
Talking about dumb sex shit, and when the mom interrupts and you get introduced to the mom, and then the dad, who Patrick Warburton is awesome, so it was pretty sweet to see him in here. Even when he just has roles like this one where he's only got a handful of lines, it's he's I like him as an actor, so I'm always pretty stoked to see him pop up and stuff. And I always just picture him in like the New Jersey Devils makeup from Seinfeld.
Doing the tongue thing.
Yes. Or like the fucking 8-ball leather jacket.
Yes.
Welcome to Seinfeld Cast with Nathan and Kit. I don't remember what this line was about, but I just wrote the quote down. How did he say it? Metrosexual instead of metrosexual?
Yeah, metro.
Patrick Warburton rules. Don't even remember what this. So, who was Robert? Is that the dad? Yeah, Robert was Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton.
So, like, when Ashley shows up at the house, like, he introduces her or, like, says hi to her in, like, the creepiest way. Or, well, I guess as creepy as I thought this movie was going to get. Because it gets fucking real creepy. She shows up and it's just kind of like, you know, general babysitter, parent kind of bullshit. Like, we're leaving, you know, make sure he goes to bed. And then they set up, like, I guess they do set up, like, a bunch of stuff that comes back later. Like, the mom tells her about Luke has been sleepwalking and that they've been putting a pencil on his door handle to see, like, you know, if he opens the door, the pencil will fall out. That way they know he had been sleepwalking. If it's still there the next day, he hadn't been. And they hide it under a rug so that he doesn't know about it.
There's a bit about a paint can that I won't get into just yet, but when we get to it,
yeah, like
we're gonna have to do a Kit Science Corner because I'm calling all kinds of bullshit.
So, I didn't quite catch. I caught them talking about this paint can, but were they talking about it specifically from Home Alone?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I gathered, like, later in it, but like when they first were talking about it, I think I was like writing something down or dealing with Paul or something, and I missed what they said about the paint can, but I assumed it was from Home Alone. I feel like there was something else that gets set up, but maybe not. There's like a lot, like, again, this movie has like a lot of kind of pretty well done plot twists and like
it's surprisingly smart.
Yeah, it's fuck, this movie was so good. So yeah, there's the thing with the pencil and then the paint can. There's kind of just some more just typical like babysitter movie stuff of like you get the general idea that Luke has a crush on Ashley. She is moving to Pittsburgh. He has decided that he's going to like put the moves on her, I guess, or what, you know. He has this whole plan set up that he's going to kind of like try and woo her on, like, I guess, you know, what would be like their last night of her babysitting him. I can't, like, I'm trying to figure out how to go into like what starts coming up next. They are kind of just generally like talking and like interacting, kind of nothing of importance until they decide, like, they start talking about ordering a pizza. And basically they're kind of talking about ordering a pizza. Luke's being a fucking mega creep on her and starts like drinking champagne at like 12, which was
almost 13.
Yeah, he's gonna turn 13 in like a month.
It's fine.
My note is Luke is drinking like a cool guy. You see, so throughout a lot of this opening sequence kind of part, like, if you pay attention to the stuff happening in the background, you get a lot of not necessarily foreshadowing, but you see kind of a lot of stuff where like you'll see shadows in the windows of like people where it looks like people are like peeping on them, or kind of just general like creepy shit going on, or like, you know, like the camera cuts at one point where they're like walking and talking and you just see like the back doors open, and like kind of setting up a general like, you know, babysitter like slasher movie where somebody
home invasion.
Yeah, like it's so well done. Like it's really difficult to like kind of put into words a lot of the stuff that's like getting set up in this first like 20 minutes before everything goes fucking haywire. There's also a fucking lot of jump scares. like the fucking phone ringing and like when she's going to grab it. There's like a lot of real kind of dumb jump scares that you would see in kind of lesser good, like worse horror movies, but like I think they're in there to set up, like kind of lull you into this sense of like, oh, this is just going to be like a general home invasion movie.
Yeah, whatever. It's just there to throw you off and make you think like, yeah, this is just, you know, pretty standard fare.
A lot of this rambling will make sense in about 10 minutes when we get to like the main plot twist. So they're gonna order pizza. The phone rings and like it's like a dumb kind of jump scare. Ashley answers it. No one's there on the line. They go back to the couch and start watching a movie that I just wrote down. This movie they're watching looks very I Hope You Suffer quality. This is like one of the few times you've seen a horror movie where they're not watching an already established movie. Like usually it would be like they're watching Halloween. Or like,
yeah, or some silly low budget.
But it's literally just like a girl running into a house and then like a dude in like a cheap fucking store-bought mask chasing her. So the doorbell rings and they go to answer it and it's a pizza guy. But Ashley never ordered pizza.
Dun dun.
Was this Law and Order? So they answer it and they kind of just assume that the parents had ordered it for them. And they go to sit down and they start eating pizza. They're watching the movie again. Luke gets more creepy and like fucking rests his head on her shoulder and like puts his like hand on her thigh. She fucking scoots it away.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it bummed me out. Like the age thing for sure, but then just kind of like the kid in general plays like creepy really well. So
I think he might just really be creepy.
He like
it's not an act.
This Levi Miller kid, the kid that plays Luke, like plays like upper class, not like I wouldn't say the family's necessarily rich, but they're definitely like based on like the house they're in, they're definitely like
they're well off.
Yeah, and like he plays that kind of well
entitled,
put together,
bratty,
like shitty rich kid real well, and he just like the longer the movie goes on, like
it makes my skin crawl. I hate him. I fucking hate him so much.
I do too, but like he like acting wise, this kid was just fucking spot on.
Oh,
this character.
It's great. It's phenomenal because that's the reaction they want from you. Yeah. Is how I feel, where I'm just enraged anytime I see him on screen and want to punch a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely the longer this movie went on, the more I was just like, God, I hope this kid fucking dies. But the ending is a lot crazier. So Luke's basically just kind of being like weird and creepy with Ashley and like trying to like put the moves on her, but in the most kind of like
ham-handed,
like, yeah, like generic,
awful,
like
creepy, weird way,
like American Pie type bullshit you would see in like a, you know, teen comedy movie. Like just shit like basically like one step away from just like yawning to put his arm around her and stuff.
I think that would have been preferable.
My next note was just Luke is very rapey. They throughout a lot of this again, you see like stuff with like shadows, like you see like humans like standing behind like doors and or like the outside like looking through the doors and stuff like that. You get more phone calls. It's like I think at least one more where like nobody answers, and then they get another phone call and somebody on the other like the line says, "I can see you."
Dun dun.
Ashley kind of starts freaking out at this point.
Understandable panic.
100%. And like for a good like 10 minutes before the plot twist, I was fully on board for this movie with her as like the lead hero, like protecting Luke or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, cause up until like the twist, like she's kind of like
it's just setting her up to be like Laurie Strode type,
yeah,
except
and like,
you know, in charge of. Well, I guess Laurie was in charge of children, just that same kind of
I think like
thing, being protector.
I think this actress could like pull that off pretty well too. Like I think she would be good in like a movie like that. Like I was fully on board with her as Ashley, like as this character kind of taking that role. You cut to just kind of them panicking. They see the back doors open again. Ashley tells Luke to throw her cell phone, which he does, which immediately lands in the fish tank.
Naturally. Where else would it fall?
Giant fish tank. As I'm talking about this, like I'm realizing how well thought out this movie was, but also how much the plan in the movie could have backfired at any fucking moment. Like, literally.
Yeah, we'll get to it, but it's bad. What he's referencing is a horrible, horrible plan.
Yeah, like as I was watching it, I even think about it. I was like, oh wow, this is like fucking well put together. But now as I'm talking about it, I'm like, any tiny thing could have derailed this entire, like, in the real world, like, the first thing going on would have derailed this entire thing, because it would not have gone as it's planned. So as they're freaking out and they think that, or, you know, like the, you know, back doors open, they're getting these phone calls, whatever. Garrett shows up, and they're just like, immediately they're like, oh, Garrett's fucking with us, but it is quickly they discover Garrett is not fucking with them. The phones are dead, the internet is out, so they can't call anybody. Like, Ashley's cell phone is like drowned in water, so she can't use that. And then
eaten by the fish.
And then a brick comes through the window that on the back of it says, "You leave, you die." With
dun, dun.
Based on the way it's written on the brick, it is a capital, just the letter U for both U's, just "You leave, you die." So I think Prince did it. Stuff is kind of like escalating where they're just panicking and they're kind of trying to figure out what to do, and Garrett panics and runs out the door and gets shot. Ashley immediately tackles Luke to the ground, and they're kind of sitting there, and she's just like giving the, like, you know, I promise I'm not gonna let anything happen to you, like, we'll get out of this, like, kind of whatever speech. As Luke is freaking out, he can't see Garrett, and he's just like, is Garrett alright? And she keeps looking back, and Garrett is just not moving. Garrett has obviously been shot and killed.
R.I.P.
Yeah. They realize that Luke's dad has a gun, and they're going to go upstairs to get it and hide. And as they go upstairs, they see somebody with a shotgun and a flashlight walking through, like, looking through the rooms. And they immediately, like, go into the first room they come across, which I think was, like, a laundry room.
I believe so.
And they're hiding in there. And they realize that the entrance to the attic is in there, so they go up in the attic, and they're hiding in there. As they're hiding in the attic and they're kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do, a spider falls on Ashley. She freaks out and falls through the attic door, but gets like caught by Luke, and he's like kind of holding her in that like that kind of position you would see when you like see somebody's like about to fall off like a building or whatever. It's a very, very weird idea that this super skinny kid's gonna hold this girl's entire weight as she's falling through like an attic door.
It's the power of love.
Oh god, now I'm gonna have that.
I felt gross saying that.
I'm gonna have that song stuck in my head now.
The power of love.
Back to the Future. We fucking watch that now. So they end up coming back out of the attic, and they're kind of still kind of figuring out what they're gonna do. And Luke's just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go get the gun," and runs out to go get the gun. And you get this kind of like tense, long shot of like Ashley kind of slowly creeping towards the door to see like what happened with Luke. That I kind of like really liked. I almost kind of wish it had went on like a good 30 seconds longer, because it was like the lighting in that room, it's like all blue, so it looks kind of cool. And then it's just like this, just like real tense. Like this is about 5 minutes into like this home invasion, and it's like, oh, just getting like super tense. And then Luke just like runs off on his own, and Luke like as she's getting closer to the door, like busts back in. He's got the gun, and what happens after this? I think something happens where they run into one of the bedrooms and hide in the closet, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember what gets them to the bedroom.
I think they just like run off. I think the intruder just kind of like walks through that hallway and eventually goes downstairs. They try to go to like another room. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, yeah. So they go to one of the bedrooms, and I think they're trying to figure out a way to like notify maybe like the neighbors or something. They're basically just figuring out like how they're going to get out of this situation. And they go into a closet in this bedroom because they hear like this home intruder coming into the room they're in. As they're hiding. Oh no, okay, so yeah. Okay, my notes are fucking real weird for this movie, so I apologize for how scattered this is at first. They go to hide in this closet, and then like that little light up toy goes off. And that's what like this like home
that's what draws the intruder into the room.
So the home intruder, like this dude comes into the room, and as they're in there, like Luke keeps whispering to himself, "Please go away, please go away, please go away." And Ashley's kind of like intently staring at this home intruder and is like, "Is that your mask?" And like she immediately like realizes what's going on.
Yeah, she throws open the closet door.
Yeah, like throws open the closet door, goes out, and she's like, "Garrett, is that you?" And Garrett takes off the mask, and it is Garrett, not dead.
Bust.
Like walking around with this shotgun, fucking like pretending to be a home intruder.
The first time I saw this, whenever it first shows him like sneaking through the hallway, I was like, why is he so short looking, and why are all of his clothes super baggy?
Yeah,
like oh, because it's a child.
I thought like
a child in a bunch of adult clothes with a shotgun.
I definitely had the thought of like this dude is like wearing either very heavy winter clothes or like it's just wearing like really baggy clothes. But like I guess like the height thing didn't necessarily hit me until then.
It's just super brief. Like enough to where you're like, did I see that right? But you don't really linger on it.
Yeah. Like this movie does a really good job of like setting up what is coming, but also like not lingering on the stuff that gives away what is coming. So Ashley is like obviously fucking pissed. Is like arguing with them. Basically just kind of goes to head downstairs just because she's fucking pissed. She's like, I'm gonna call your parents. Like, this is fucked up. And Luke pistol whips her and she falls down the stairs.
Yeah,
like, just fade to black.
Right on the back of her head.
And this is where the movie gets fucking bonkers. Like, I was not at all prepared for basically the rest of this movie. So, when I first, like, if you watch the trailer for this movie, the idea in the trailer, like the little tag, like the thing that, like, kind of sums up the plot is like, it's like Home Alone meets The Strangers. Which, to me, is like, okay, people are going to break in and then they're going to, like, fight them off. At this point, and for the rest of the movie, Ashley is kidnapped by Luke. Luke is now, like, essentially Luke is a fucking psychopath. Like, the rest of this movie... Hey, I know, we're getting to it. Luke is basically... what it boils down to is so in love with Ashley, or just, like, in general, like a fucking insane person, that he has now kidnapped her with Garrett's help and is holding her hostage for the rest of this movie. I know.
Oh, Paul.
So she starts coming to. She is duct taped to a chair, and Luke and Garrett are just kind of being douchebags.
They're talking about who they would fuck, marry, or kill on Adventure Time.
Oh, yeah. I just wrote, this fuck, marry, kill is super gross.
Because he says fuck Princess Bubblegum, and was saying because she's soft and stretchy, and that her pussy tastes like bubblegum.
Which
just
is
the creepiest, like, prepubescent shit you could think of.
Also 100% from the mind of somebody that doesn't understand how sex works.
Or gum.
Because that shit will lose its flavor very quickly.
Yeah.
And I did kind of like the shot where, like, you get the point of view of Ashley, like, coming to, and you just see, like, Luke on that scooter just kind of going in a circle. So it's like he'll show up and then, like, exit the room, and then about, like, 10 seconds later, like, show up and exit again. But it's all, like, I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool looking, like, all, like, her, like, fuzzy point of view, and then, like, trying to, like, piece together what's going on as they're playing fuck, marry, kill, and talking about Garrett being fucked up on OxyContin. It is also set up earlier that, like, apparently Garrett is, like, a fucking 12-year-old junkie, because he's, like, going through Luke's mom's pill cabinet. My next note that is probably for about the next 20 minutes of this movie is just what the fuck is happening. You're basically getting, like, kind of them filling in Ashley on what's going on. Like, she obviously doesn't understand. She's been babysitting Luke for however many years. And basically Luke's just like, he's like he's in love with her, obviously. Or as far as it's portrayed at this point, like, I kind of never really got the idea on whether he was truly in love with her or whether he was just a fucking psychopath.
A little both.
Yeah, like, it's kind of what I was leaning towards, but I don't know. Like, the more it gets to, like, the end of the movie, the more I'm just like, oh, well, this kid is just fucking insane. But, basically, they're like, talking to her while she's tied up. She's trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And Luke's basically like, we're gonna play Truth or Dare. And I can't remember exactly, like, I know the first question he asks, she says truth, and he's just like, how many guys have you fucked? And she's like, none. And he like refuses to believe it. And I'm trying to figure what, like, she asks him, but I can't remember what she asks him. Was it? I think this is when she.
So
asks
she,
about the hamster?
after a couple of things that are just like uncomfortable questions, it got to her turn, and she asks if Luke had ever told Garrett that he was the one that killed his hamster, and
yeah, like
Garrett did not know.
yeah. So basically, immediately setting up like the
rift.
yeah, which is like still like at this point, I still was like, oh, she's gonna be like the like. I mean, she essentially is like the hero kind of main person you're rooting for throughout this movie, but not in like the way it was set up at the beginning. But at this point,
Yep.
I was still kind of like, oh, like this still kind of gonna be what it is, even with like this insane twist.
You know, Garrett's a ridiculously good friend.
No
Like,
shit.
yeah,
Or,
I'm gonna help you kidnap someone and, you know, go through with your insane plan, and then I'll even find out that you murdered my hamster. But it's, you know, it's fine. It's whatever. Like,
I'm assuming
what?
like this would be one of those things where like I would love to hear like a prequel to, just of like
About the hamster.
just what like him and Luke were. It's just like the point of view of the hamster for an hour and a half, leading to its death.
Before he gets murdered.
Like, you have to assume that there has to have been some kind of like fucked up talk between him and Garrett about like shit like this. 'Cause,
Setting all
like,
this up.
there's no way that like just being best friends with somebody, like even if like Katie from last week was like, hey, I'm gonna kidnap this person, I'd be like, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, you should probably not do that.
So like Garrett starts like kind of arguing, but very not like heavily, but just kind of like, oh, like why did you kill my hamster? Like, what the fuck, dude? And all of a sudden, Ricky. Oh, good. What, you gonna say something?
I said, there's one brief little part where he's like, you told me that he like crawled into whatever hole and died, and he's like, he did, but he was already dead whenever he made it into the hole. So,
God, Luke is a
like,
fucking
God,
like.
piece of shit.
Oh man, like at this point, like it's like obviously you're just kind of like, oh, okay, well this kid fucking sucks, but he's also like kind of charming at this point, as opposed to like the more it goes on, the more he just becomes like 100% like insane, like the shit you hear about with like when you hear like serial killers with like in their youth they were like obsessed, they started killing animals and shit like that before they just become like detached from society. Like it's almost like that span of time for like serial killers where it's from like age 5 to like 20 something. Like this happens to Luke within like this night, like the way it's portrayed in this movie. It's God, this fucking kid was very good in this movie. Like he just makes you fucking hate him so much.
So much.
So throughout like the beginning where like you're getting kind of character building and stuff, like there's a bunch of times Ashley is talking on the phone to her boyfriend Ricky and they're kind of arguing, and it seems like it has a lot to do with her moving to Pittsburgh and shit. And Ricky shows up at the house and like Luke goes to answer the door. Ricky's like, I know Ashley's here. Like, she told me she's going to be here. And he kind of, like, busts his way in. And you get, like, a good, like, 5-minute scene of him talking, like, Ricky and Luke talking, where he's trying to find Ashley. Ashley's, like, trying to bang around and stuff to, like, get him to, like, go into, like, the dining room or wherever she's, like, taped to this chair. And Luke and Garrett are trying to distract him to be like, no, like, you know, she's upstairs. And they're like, they're basically just like, oh, she doesn't want to see you, like, she's mad at you, oh, she's got cramps, she's on her period. And, like, Ricky's just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, no, I know she's here. They get him to go upstairs. And, like, Luke pulls out a baseball bat and hits Ricky with it. And Ricky goes down and then basically, like, pulls an Undertaker and immediately just gets back up like nothing fucking happened and starts to, like, attack Luke. And
Which
Luke,
rules?
Yes.
Anytime Luke gets attacked, it's great.
Luke seems like
more of that.
Legitimately panicked, like this was not part of his plan. And
that guy should have died when my frail 13-year-old body hit him with this tiny baseball bat.
Yes, this kid is like the skinniest kid you have ever seen. They're kind of like fighting, but not like real fighting. Kind of like that fighting of like Ricky's like, oh, this is like a 12-year-old. I can't just fuck this kid up. Because he obviously doesn't really fully understand what's going on.
First mistake.
Yeah. And
always destroy the child.
As like Luke is on the ground, he pulls the pencil out from under the rug in front of his room and stabs Ricky in the cheek with it.
Oh, that looks so painful.
Oh god, yes. It's like an Evil Dead when like it's Evil Dead 1 or 2, I forget, whenever like the lady gets like stabbed in the ankle with the pencil.
Yes.
This seems so fucking painful. They kind of are like fighting a little bit more, and I think Garrett shows up with the gun and like holds it on Ricky and like makes Ricky get on his knees and is just like, just stop, like, you know, whatever, like trying to sort of like keep the peace, because Garrett throughout most of the movie is like going along with Luke's plans, but also is like trying to not let shit go completely haywire. Because like you pretty much immediately get like the idea that Ricky's not fully, or Garrett is not fully on board with this plan, and obviously does not want to like hurt people. As Ricky is like being held at gunpoint, Luke just bashes him in the fucking back of the head with his baseball bat, and then Ricky wakes up taped to a chair next to Ashley.
So much tape and so many chairs in this house.
Oh, dude, there's like so much duct tape used in this movie. So you get like a bunch of stuff with just Luke being a fucking mega creep about Ashley and Rick's like sex life, and it's fucking real weird. It's kind of just more stuff just setting up Luke as being kind of like unhinged, and Garrett kind of being like, all right, like this is kind of going like too far for me. It eventually gets like, I don't remember how Ashley gets like the piece of glass.
It was because they were trying to get what's his name to drink something, or her to drink something, and she slaps the glass out of his hand, and it breaks on the floor, and he freaks out.
I believe, like, what I got from it, like, he says that, like, some point, because she's just like, you're not going to get away with this, like, your parents will be home soon, like, there's this just, like, whatever, that he's going to basically, like, roofie her. Like, because he basically says, like, you'll drink this and you'll pass out, and in the morning you just won't remember any of it. Which is real fucking gross. But yeah, so basically, like, that happens, I think, right before Ricky shows up. Because I think it's when they go to answer the door. Or, like, maybe right after Ricky shows up and she had, like, knocked herself over to make noise, that she picks up the glass. But, she's got this piece of glass that she's going to slowly try to, like, cut herself loose. Ricky, like, pisses himself, I think on purpose, to, like, get Luke to kind of, like, freak out. Because Luke is obviously, like, concerned with, like, evidence throughout this whole thing. Like, this is when you start kind of getting the idea that Luke has a plan. Like, Luke knows exactly what's happening, like, when it's going to happen. Like, he has this plan of how shit's gonna work out. And, like, Ricky pisses himself, and Luke immediately freaks out because his parents are going to either, like, be pissed that their hardwood is stained, or, like, it's gonna leave Ricky's, like, DNA where it shouldn't be. Something like that.
It's just gonna smell like piss.
Luke cleans it up and, like, leaves the room. Like, goes outside to, like, throw, like, the towel or whatever away. And, like, this is where Ashley's kind of, like, starts cutting, like, the duct tape and is leaving. Like, as she's doing it, she's cutting her hand, so she's bleeding as well. And is trying to, like, cover up, like, the blood that's, like, leaking from her hand so that Luke and Garrett don't realize that she has this piece of glass. Garrett comes in. Oh no. So, like every other fucking goddamn movie we've done where there's, like, a couple in it, as they're, like, tied up and she's trying to cut herself loose, Ricky starts fucking, like, bearing his soul to her.
Naturally.
Because this is, like, the fucking, like, they're basically, like, if they wanted to go full, they, like, the full, like, every other movie, they should just start making out. Garrett comes in smoking weed that he got from somewhere, because he's a fucking junkie at, like, 12. To what, like, they like, force Ricky to smoke for reasons I never fully understood.
It was because Garrett was smoking weed while he was out. He was smoking weed in the house. So, in order to cover for the smell of weed, they made Ricky smoke. So it was
like
in his
him.
system.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it looked like he was the one smoking weed in the house.
So, Luke, at some point, says something along the lines of, like, he wants to watch Ricky and Ashley go fuck, which is just, like,
Real weird.
Yeah, it's
obviously
gross, but I don't remember how he comes up with the idea, but he comes up with the Kit Science corner this week of the paint can.
Oh my god.
Hey, do you wanna go ahead and take it from here?
Yeah, so they drag Ricky in his chair out into the like entryway, right underneath the what'd you call it? Not a balcony, but like right above the stairs, like a little overhead walkway kind of thing. And Luke goes up there, and while he's up there doing whatever, Garrett starts talking to Ricky, and Ricky's trying to convince him, like, dude, just let me out of here. Like, we can go and get the hell out of here. It'll be fine. Like, you know, just don't do whatever you're gonna do. And somewhere around there, you just see a paint can go flying past Ricky's head. And it turns out that Luke has set up a Home Alone style setup where he has the paint just tied to a rope, tied to a banister, and he's just like trying to toss it and have it pendulum into Ricky's head.
Yeah, so like, I guess their argument was that in Home Alone, like, one of them has the
paint can would have exploded a person's head.
Yeah, like I think Luke is like, no, a paint can would definitely kill somebody, and Garrett's like, no, it would probably just like knock you back like it does in Home Alone, and that's like the argument they're having earlier in the movie. And so at this point, Ricky starts like legit freaking out.
Naturally.
And I think this is when Ashley,
she gets mostly free. She has one hand still taped to the chair.
Yeah, that was kind of awesome.
But she grabs the gun because they left the gun on the kitchen counter. She grabs the gun and runs in there and is like, all right, put the paint can down. Like, we're done with this. Like, you know, I will fucking shoot you if you don't drop the paint can. So, of course, that poor phrasing leads to Luke saying, okay, I'll drop it. And he just hurls it over the banister, and it swings and in slow-mo just nails Ricky in the head.
Oh, it's so good.
It doesn't show it, but it is heavily implied that his head exploded.
It, like...
Which is horse shit.
A
paint can would not blow up your head.
Well, I mean, there's only one way to figure out. I hope you
Especially
suffer.
A paint can hurled by a frail little 12-year-old child who couldn't even kill a man with one swing of a bat.
It definitely would not explode a head. I think it would...
It would hurt so bad.
I think it would definitely do a lot of damage. Maybe break your neck.
Depending on where it hit you.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it hits you in the forehead, it's going to knock you over if you're sitting in a chair, and you're going to be like, Jesus Christ, why did you do this?
Going with the logic of this movie, the way they did it, I was kind of stoked that they didn't show it, and all you see is just the yellow paint, and then just kind of like red mixing in with it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Visually, it looks cool, but at the same time, I was just like, no, this is not how this works. I'm not suspending my disbelief for this.
I also kind of love that, for the next, 5 minutes of this movie, Ashley just has, a chair taped to her arm. It's, there's, small things in this movie, kind of like in Mother Krampus with, just the Christmas lights attached to sticks. There was, small things like that I was kind of like, that's fucking genius. Her getting loose, but just saying fuck it and having this chair taped to her arm for a solid 10 minutes or whatever is pretty awesome. So let us know on Twitter if you think a paint can.
If you've ever hit anyone in the head with a paint can.
If you've ever done this and made somebody's head explode like Scanners.
I demand video footage, please. So
after this, Ashley makes it outside and is running.
Well,
no, go ahead.
I don't think we covered this, but it turns out that the gun was empty.
Oh yeah.
After he threw the paint can and blew up Ricky's head, she, Luke talked some shit or whatever, and was like, "No, you wouldn't shoot me." And she goes to fire the gun, and it's empty. So the gun's been empty the whole time.
I pretty much assumed, from the twist, when you realize Luke is the villain or whatever, I pretty much assumed that the gun did not have ammo. Because, at the beginning, when it just kind of seems like he's just, not completely insane, but just kind of, a dumb... when you just kind of think it's, this dumb thing that, he's in love with her or whatever. I was like, oh, well, he doesn't want to, kill her. So, obviously, there's, no ammo in there. It's just, this kid being, fucking stupid. So, I had kind of put that together kind of early into the twist. But she goes running outside with this fucking chair still attached to her. Garrett goes chasing after her to where they get pelted by paintballs, which you realize is what shot Garrett earlier in the movie. He trips over this little tripwire or a thing, a motion sensor that shoots them with a paintball. When she falls from tripping and busts the chair, Garrett and her fight for a minute on the ground. She does something to Garrett to get him to stop chasing her. I can't remember what, but she eventually kind of breaks her way loose, goes down this kind of corridor of trees, and you see a bunch of carolers outside across the street. And as she's kind of coming up near them, she gets pelted in the back of the head with a fucking brick. And as it hits the ground, you see the "You leave, you die" on it. And you realize that Luke hit her in the back of the head with this fucking brick. And she was feet away from escaping. But these dumbass carolers were singing.
Bastards.
And so...
Never trust carolers.
Nope. When it cuts to the next scene, it's the carolers at Luke's house. Luke is giving them, hot chocolate And it does this kind of awesome, like, scan up from the carolers through, like, the window of the door. And you just see, like, Ricky's body in there, covered in, like, blood and yellow paint. It's pretty sweet. That whole fucking paint can thing is awesome. And it's, like, sets up, like, a bunch of shit for, like, the rest of the movie where, like, Garrett is, like, covered in yellow paint and just leaving more, like, evidence, like, elsewhere throughout the house. Ashley is now tied up with duct tape and Christmas lights to make sure everybody knows this is a Christmas movie.
What other way?
So, the next part of Luke's plan is to get Jeremy, Ashley's ex-boyfriend, to come over to the house, and he gets him to come over and tells, like, through I think Ashley's phone, which you realize was in a plastic bag when he tossed it to her, so that when it went in the fish tank, it was in like a little sandwich bag, so it never actually got wet. Which, like, again, like, immediately, if he would have just missed that fish tank, this entire movie doesn't happen. He texts Jeremy, is like, come over, like, meet me in the backyard or whatever. Jeremy is, like, the biggest douchebag on the fucking planet.
He's the Red Ranger, and I have a total bro crush on him. He's so handsome and charming.
I just could not get past his fucking hat.
This is not his best look.
He, like... Oh, God, I can't think of what the meme is, but there's a meme that's got, like, that is dressed up just like this dude.
Yeah, the douchebag guy. Yeah.
That's, like, all I could think
flat bill hat.
Yeah. Oh, God. Fucking... I just picture that, like, your bedroom is covered in Power Ranger stuff now.
It might be.
That would be fucking awesome.
I actually like him better in Stranger Things.
Yeah, I that was the thing that I had, but I was like, this guy was like, he was far enough down in, like, the credits that I was just like, I'm not even gonna bother. Because that was, like, the only sort of horror-ish related thing I really came across with, like, somebody's credits was this person was in Stranger Things, but... So he shows up and has this weird fucking pep talk monologue in his car that immediately I was just like, I do not like this guy. This guy was just, like, every fucking douchebag I come across in Ohio. Waiting in line at the gas station, getting Black and Milds and shit. So he shows up and comes through the backyard and is trying to, like, get Ashley's attention, but, like, doesn't want to, like, knock on the door or something. And Luke pops up behind him and starts talking to him, and it's just like, hey, like, Ashley's here, but she's kind of mad at you, and she, like, basically is just like, if you want to talk to her, like, she needs you to apologize for, like, whatever happened between them in the past or some shit. And, like, as Luke is out there talking to Jeremy, trying to get him to, like, write down an apology note, which Jeremy's first note was just like, I'm sorry, Jeremy, because Jeremy's, like, not having any of it. Inside, Ashley is, like, playing Garrett, like, being like, hey, like, I know this isn't you, like, if you let me go, like, obviously this is Luke, he's just kind of, like, making you go along with this or whatever, and is, like, starts, like, stroking his hand with, like, her finger, because that's, like, all she could reach, and it's kind of, like, trying to be sweet to him, and it cuts back outside to Jeremy and Luke talking. Luke eventually convinces Jeremy that he needs to write her, like, a real apology note, and as he's, like, doing that, and he gets done, a noose wraps around his neck, and he starts to get hung from this tree that he was sitting on a swing set in this tree, starts to get hung, and you realize that Luke has this noose attached to the lawnmower and is, like, driving the lawnmower backwards which is fucking
So good.
yeah, it's awesome.
So dumb, but so good.
Like they took like the most like benign things you could think of, like a paint can and just like a fucking riding lawnmower, like dumb suburban bullshit, and like turned it into these kind of like awesome death things.
Like the end of Get Out, where they just like specifically find the whitest fucking shit
Yeah.
to kill everyone with.
So Jeremy gets hung by this noose attached to like the riding lawnmower. As he dies, he drops this notebook, and it says something along the lines of like, "Ashley, I'm sorry for everything I did. Love, Jeremy." And you immediately get the idea that Luke has set this up so that it's going to look like Jeremy killed all of them and everything. Like Jeremy was the one that did all this and then hung himself. And you get this like legit fucking creepy ass shot of like Jeremy's legs or whatever hanging, and then just Luke just kind of like happily driving the lawnmower back into the shed.
Fuck.
Being the fucking douchebaggiest of kids. It cuts back into the house, and Garrett is trying to like cut the duct tape from Ashley and like kisses her on the cheek. And then Luke comes in and fucking shoots him with a shotgun. And
blows him away.
Oh,
like, he flies like 20 feet through the air.
It's
also unrealistic, but it looked super cool. So, no science corner on that.
Not anywhere near as unrealistic as firing that shotgun underwater in Bait 3D.
Oh my god.
So Garrett starts like freaking out. Like Garrett's like, "Fuck, dude! Like, what the fuck?" And Luke loses his goddamn mind.
Understandably freaking out after being shot.
Yeah, he's just like, "Fuck, dude!"
Shot
like,
in the chest with a shotgun.
And like Garrett is kind of like panicking. Like the situation is like fully set in after he got fucking blasted with this shotgun.
Like, this was a mistake.
Like Luke shoots him in the face with the shotgun and then just fucking flips the fuck out and just starts like screaming at him about like, "I told you not to touch her.
Yeah, she's my woman.
You made me do this," and like all this shit. Just fucking loses it. And it's like, it's so fucking well done. Like he crushes this scene because he has this like full on meltdown and then immediately just kind of like slicks back his hair and is like calm and was just kind of like, well, he was getting on my nerves anyway. Like, this kid pulls off this fucking, like, the end of this movie of, like, just fucking, like, complete
weird
being a psychopath shit, like, so well. So Luke goes back out and is kind of, like, talking to Ashley. Ashley's just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, as, like, I don't know, Luke's monologuing some bullshit to her, and she says some line about like or Luke says some line about like, my mom stopped like cradling me at some point and like I don't know why, and Ashley's just like kind of like it sets into her that she's like, I was never gonna get out of this, like he's not gonna let me live, and you see a couple tears stream down her face and she just says, "I know why." And Luke's like, "Tell me why," and she won't say anything. And he's like, "Tell me why, like, say something. Tell me you won't let go, like, tell me why." And she won't say anything. And as, like, Luke is kind of being like, what the fuck, like, tell me why, he pulls out, like a switchblade and stabs Ashley right in the fucking neck. And, like, basically, like, kills Ashley. At this point, it goes into, like, cleanup mode, where it just cuts to this, like, montage of him, you know, rubbing, like, all of the guns on Jeremy's hands to get, like, all of, like
That's so good.
He's just basically, like, there's, like, a montage of him cleaning up kind of, like, DNA, and then, like, interspersed with stuff of, like, him brushing his teeth. And then it'll be, like, him, like, putting the fucking, like, paint can on, like, Jeremy's hands, and then like, you know, just kind of like mundane shit that like him getting ready for bed.
If they really wanted to show him as a psychopath, they would have had him scrubbing up the piss puddle with the toothbrush and then brushing his teeth with the same toothbrush. That would have really sold it.
That would have been real weird. I would have been
like, wow, this guy's legit crazy.
I would have been real happy.
That other stuff really sold me on it, but
I feel like that immediately I would have been like, fuck this movie.
Bridge too far.
So he's kind of like tying up all the loose ends and is going to bed. And earlier in the movie, it is set up that like because of his sleepwalking, that he sleeps with like a heartbeat machine under his bed. That's like what is supposed to be like this thing that like babies have that are supposed to be like what they would hear inside the womb.
Yeah.
And then he takes like sleeping pills. And so he goes to lay down and he goes, "Oh fuck, the pencil." And has to go get the pencil and like
he just goes and drops it in the pool of Ricky's blood, right? Like
yeah.
No other thought or anything put into it, just like, fuck it, as long as it's over there, like, whatever.
Which, like, also, like, what, like, I'm assuming that means he goes to get another pencil to leave on, like, the door handle?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, like, I literally just thought about that. I'm like, wait, if he took the pencil that he used that was at the beginning of the movie...
That he's just going to be like, I was sleepwalking and stabbed that guy in the face.
Yeah, because he fumbles with this pencil trying to close the door with the pencil set up so it looks like he hasn't left his room. And so he has to go out, like, leave his room, close the door, set the pencil up, and go outside, like, one of the other bedrooms and, like, walk across, like, his roof to get into his room through the window. And as he's doing this, he starts knocking over, like, Christmas decorations as his parents pull up. And, like, it's just, like, you know, snow falling off this roof and, like, stuff that's supposed to be like, oh, the parents are going to catch him up there, but they don't. He gets in there, turns on his, like, heartbeat machine, takes his sleeping pill as, like, his parents come into the house and start screaming. It cuts to... like, the police are there. His mom is, like, cradling him. And he's got this smile on his face. Like, whatever. As, like, you know, like, his dad's, like, talking to the police. Like, whatever. And then you just hear, like, a cop from somewhere else yell, "This one's still alive." And you see that, like, look of panic come across his face as he runs to, like, the window. And you see... Ashley being loaded into an ambulance, and you hear one of the cops say that she was smart enough to put duct tape over her wound on her neck and stop the bleeding. And as she's being loaded into the ambulance, she looks up at the window and flips off Luke. And
so perfect.
It's awesome. And it, like, cuts to credits. And you get, like, a mid-credit scene of Luke leaving the window and be like, "Mom, can we go visit Ashley in the hospital?"
Yeah, I'm really worried about her.
Oh, but that fucking ending was so good. Like I was...
Just that perfect, like, tongue-in-cheek, like, fun kind of, like, oh shit.
Well, it was that, and then, like, I was, like, legit bummed that she, like, dies.
Yeah.
And, like, I was like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. Like, I was kind of hoping that she would be, like, she would actually live.
Because he plays that part so good of being so hateable that it really gets under your skin, like, motherfucker, he did it. Like,
yeah.
He pulled this off.
Like, I fully expected, like, something was going to happen. Like, I didn't expect he was going to get away with it. Like, I figured something was going to happen in his cleanup, that he would get caught. Like, even when the police were there and it seemed like everything was going to be alright, I figured there was going to be some sort of, like, thing of, like... oh, well, like, this doesn't add up. Like, something else happened. But, like, when they're just like, one of them are still alive, I was like, fuck yes. Yeah. So that's this movie. It's fucking super good. I was very, very shocked at how good this movie was.
I would say you should watch it, but I hope you already watched it before this. I'll watch it again.
It's still, it's fully enjoyable knowing, like, you can watch it and still enjoy it, but I think, like, that first watch, like, for me...
Oh, yeah. It's great. The first watch for me, I was like, oh, shit, this is not at all what I was expecting.
So, I have 2 news stories. One of them is kind of long, depending on if you have any idea what I'm talking about. So, do you know what the Russian sleep experiment is?
I do not.
Okay, I'm gonna haunt your fucking dreams for the rest of the week. Okay, so, like, I was looking at news on Bloody Disgusting, and that's when I came across, like, the story about, like, that Dial Code Santa Claus movie or whatever that is essentially like Home Alone, but Santa breaks in and starts fucking, like, this kid has to, like, get Santa from killing people in his house or whatever. But, then I stumbled across this movie that they're making based on the Russian sleep experiment. And I'm going to read you this, like, thing verbatim of what the Russian sleep experiment was. It's kind of long, but it is a fucking journey. And if you don't know what it is, like, you're gonna fucking lose your mind. So, strap in for a minute. Alright, so... Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake so the gas didn't kill them since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed-circuit cameras, so they had only microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on, but no bedding, running water and toilet, and enough dried food to last all 5 for over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained about having promised falsely that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidences in their past, and the general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades and other subjects in captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected that it was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. Let's see... Where the fuck did this go? Fuck, I just lost my place. Hold on a second. Alright, after 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screamer captives took the books apart and smeared page after page with their own feces and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So did the whispering to the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it was impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives they were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We're opening the chamber to test the microphone. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm voice response, "We no longer want to be freed." Debate broke out amongst the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of loved ones, to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state of any of them in life. The food rations past day 5 had not been touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead test subject's thigh and chest stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much of the water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth, or as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs below the ribcage of all 4 test subjects had been removed, while the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place. The skin and most of the muscle attached to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact. They had just been taken out and laid on the floor, fanning out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tracts of all 4 could be seen to be working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh they had ripped off and eaten over the course of days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. They continued to scream to be left in the chamber and alternately begged and demanded that the gas be turned back on. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by having his testicles ripped off, and an artery in his leg severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives, if you count ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and he bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of morphine and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor. When his heart was to beat... Wait, what the fuck is this sentence? When his heart was seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he bled out to the point that there was no more air in his vascular system than blood. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach and just repeating the word "more" over and over, weaker and weaker, until he fell silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with intact vocal cords continuously begged for gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to the only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative they had given him to prepare him for the surgery. He fought furiously against the restraints when the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under. He managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist, even through the weight of a 200-pound soldier holding his wrist down. It took only a little more anesthetic than normal to put him under, and the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found out that his blood had triple the amount level of oxygen. His muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn, and he had broken 9 bones in his struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force of his own muscles. Most of them were from the force his own muscles had exerted on them. The second survivor had been the first of the group of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed. He was unable to beg or object to surgery. And he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly that they try the surgery without anesthetic, and did not react to the entire 6-hour procedure by replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it should be medically possible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simply, "Keep cutting." The other 2 subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well. Although they had been injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation, the surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subjects could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in any abnormally short period of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the stimulant gas. The researcher tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given: "I must remain awake." All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced, and they were placed back in the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of their military benefactors for having failed the state goals of their project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, an ex-KGB, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to an EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all 3 stopped struggling the moment it was let slip they were going to be put back on the gas. It was obvious that at this point, all 3 were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subjects were straining his legs against the leather bonds with all of his might, first left, then right, then left again, for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly. Having been the first to be wired to the EEG, most of the researchers were monitoring his brainwaves in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if he were repeatedly suffering brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw his eyes slip shut at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flat lines as the one who had just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the named three immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes, then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brain out as well. He pointed his gun on the remaining subject, still restrained to the bed, as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. "I won't be locked in here with these things, not with you," he screamed at the man strapped to the table. "What are you? I demand, I must know." The subject smiled. "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject asked. "We are you. We are the badness that lurks within you, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out, "So nearly done." So, this story is what they're making this movie about. That a bunch of people think is real, but is actually a creepypasta. Which is, I'm assuming you probably know, like, the Slender Man.
Yeah.
And all that shit. Like, basically somebody made up this fucking insane story that spread around the internet of these Russian sleep experiments that are completely fucking insane. That somebody is going to be making a movie about, with Chris Kattan from SNL as one of these sleep, like, chamber people.
He looks like he never sleeps.
It's kind of fucking bonkers. Like, I saw they were making this movie, and I'd heard this story on this podcast I listened to called "And That's Why We Drink," where, like, one of the hosts read it to the other host, like, to get her reaction, and just kind of, like, read it, like, like an hour of reading this story, and, like, the other host just being like, "What the fuck?" But I was like, I'm fucking amazed they're making that nonsense into a movie with Chris Kattan. All of that was just so I could be like, Chris Kattan's gonna be in this fucking movie.
I'd watch that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like an interesting idea for a movie, but throwing Chris Kattan as one of the people in the chamber that is going to, like, rip out his own guts from some fucking gas is gonna be insane. That's all I got, except for that fucking Dial Code Santa Claus movie. This movie that was, like, I guess, made and was released overseas in 1989, but has only been available on VHS bootlegs, has been unearthed, called Dial Code Santa Claus, and I guess is being toured around the country through Alamo Drafthouse. But there's tour dates if you go to, like, bloodydisgusting.com or whatever, you can find it. The trailer looks pretty awesome, because it's like Santa Claus breaks into this kid's house, and this kid is, like, defending his house from Santa Claus. But, like, at, like, one point, the kid is, like, dressed up, like, as Rambo in the trailer. Like, it looks pretty crazy. But yeah, that's all I got. Next week is Santa Sleigh, which
The Bill Goldberg classic.
Cannot wait to watch. I, like, Instagram, for some reason, I've been seeing a shit ton of, like, clips from it. And since I've never seen it, I've seen these clips now, and I'm like, this movie looks insane.
Yes.
So I'm pretty fucking stoked to watch it. You can, Santa Sleigh is on Prime for, like, $2.99 rental, probably, like, iTunes as well, or you can just fucking steal it.
Yeah. Preferred method.
You can follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer, on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast, Facebook at I Hope You Suffer Pod, email at I Hope You Suffer Podcast at gmail.com. That's all I got. You got anything?
Not really. Other than Joe Bob is back on Friday.
Oh yeah.
All other Joe Bob weirdos doing his I forget what it's called. Very Joe Bob Christmas.
Last drive-in thing. I am off Friday, so I think I might, like, live tweet it from our Twitter account and, like, watch it.
You bastard. I'm
just
gonna have to watch it in the days leading up to Christmas.
I think
after it airs.
They tease that it's, like, 4 movies in the same like thing. Like, so I think like the things I've been seeing people are guessing is that it's going to be like Silent Night, Deadly Night, like the 4 of those.
Yeah, I would imagine a good chunk of the Christmas movies they just added.
Yeah. Because the only other thing, like, do they have all 4 of those on Shudder?
I don't think so.
I don't know, like, because it's supposed to be like 4 of like the same thing, like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because like the only thing I'm aware of that Shudder has all 4 of is I think Phantasm. But like it seems like it would be a Christmas movie.
I mean, they might be adding them as a surprise on Friday.
Yeah, maybe that'd be kind of awesome too. But yeah, I will most likely live tweet that as I watched on Twitter because this is the first time I've been able to actually like be home on the day they're doing a last drive-in. So I'm kind of stoked for that. But yeah, that's all we got. I hope you suffer, but why?
But why?